responsibility that she has to live up to if she would like to practice veterinary medicine.
Mr. Rosengard, you're well beyond your 3 minutes. We need to move on.
I will simply say that I encourage you to adhere to your original decision, and I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming. Our next speaker will be Dr. Tom DeMura. Good morning, Dr. DeMura.
Good morning.
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, yes. Y'all have heard me before on the subject of drug testing your inspectors. Today we're going to cover why. Now, why is because I'm worried about you folks. Y'all are statutorily responsible for the protection of the interest of the people of Texas in terms of veterinary medicine. Part of that involves DEA and drugs. I don't know about you, but since you're very worried about diversion, I'm worried about it too. You have given people a badge. They go in. I hear tramadol is $5 a tablet. I didn't know that. I just found that out. But anyway, the problem of it is if you would drug test your employees, you can sleep easy. I can sleep easy. I won't worry about your reputations or the integrity of this board. I think that it's simple. Random drug testing eliminates any problem. To quote Shakespeare, Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. You have a responsibility, a statutory responsibility. You serve at the pleasure of the governor as appointees. We would rely on you, as apparently other people outside the profession. It's in your interest. It's in the profession's interest. It's in this agency's interest. It's time for you to start here. A lot of work in front of you. I've read the audit. I hope you will work with TVMA. I hope you'll listen to some new ideas that may be coming up. But this, drug testing. The other thing, I brought examples. These are cell phones. There's a GoPro. Here's a tablet. Ms. Choate there can tell you that tablet will go 2 hours. I don't know about the GoPro, probably the phone too. Videotaping inspections, its time has come. Eliminates the issues of he said, she said, we might have saw, we thought we saw, and strange type of inspections. You could all have video, and then you'd look at it, and then you would see for yourselves. Anyway, it's good to be here again. Hopefully you'll do the right thing.
Thank you for your comments. I think that concludes it. I believe that concludes our public comments. We want to thank everybody for coming. And your points are well taken. I think next in our agenda we're gonna move to item number 12, let me get over here to it. Item number 12 is a presentation by Texas A&M on telemedicine. We have Dr. Dean Green and I believe Mark Cushing. If y'all would, Can we get Mark a microphone there as well, Loris?
I can share with
you. Okay. Just push the little button there. And good morning and welcome to our meeting, Dr. Green.
Thank you. And thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having us, and thanks for all the good work that you do. One thing we're here to tell you officially is about an exciting initiative we have at Texas A&M now that we think is going to have a long-term impact on this profession. One of the things that we're always concerned about is not only where the profession is, but where it's going. And if you look at the area of telehealth, telemedicine, we're certainly moving in that direction. There are a lot of technologies technologies available to veterinarians today that have not been available before, and these technologies are actually going to fundamentally change the way we practice veterinary medicine. Many of these technologies are already incorporated into human medicine in ways beyond what we're doing in veterinary medicine, but the same technologies either are available or are being developed. One of the things we want to do at Texas A&M, because we are an academic institution and we think we have an obligation to drive the knowledge edge forward, but also to prepare graduates for the future, is to explore some of these new areas. And we have a project that we have developed in partnership with the Veterinary Innovation Council, which is a council formed by the North American Veterinary Conference. Mark Cushing and I both serve on that council. And one of the first initiatives that they wanted to take on was telehealth, telemedicine. And so they developed a partnership among several different groups that could kick this off and just see how it can be implemented in the profession within current guidelines. And with that, there's a partnership with Texas A&M University, with Banfield Pet Health, and with VCA, with the thought being that rather than trying to recruit a lot of single practices, that if you went to corporate, that it'd be easier to get groups of practices to work on this. And I'll let Mark tell you a little bit more about that. One of the things that we are interested in is making sure that veterinarians serve animals and serve their clients in the very best way possible. And we believe that what we've seen in the human side and also what we predict and have experienced on the veterinary side is that telehealth and telemedicine will be tremendous assets to veterinarians in the care of animals. And not only will it allow better care for animals today, it will allow us to reach a lot of animals that are currently not receiving care. So we're really excited about the opportunities for what this can mean for the welfare of animals overall. With that, Mark, I'll turn it over to you right now, and we'll go back and forth and certainly be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Dean Green. I'm Mark Cushing. Just quick background, I'm an attorney licensed in Texas, Oregon, District of Columbia, and Tennessee. I founded the Animal Policy Group, and my practice is devoted 100% to animal health and veterinary, legal, regulatory, and in some cases political issues around the country. Recently had a chance to speak at the AAVSB annual meeting, and your chairman and others were there. It was impressive. And there was great note taken by the entire veterinary community nationally that organization devoted a half a day to the subject of telemedicine. I think 2 years ago, for sure 4 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. There was mention here and there about this idea of telehealth, the use of electronic tools to deliver health care. In 2016, for a variety of reasons, the profession, and now I can tell you 50 states are all looking at this question from a veterinary perspective. I think, as Dean Green shared, we have really at least 20 years. We have 2 full decades of human medicine, and your compatriot state boards of medicine across the country have looked at this issue of telehealth. And they've interestingly looked at the exact same issues that veterinary medicine will now face. All the same questions about creation of a doctor-patient relationship, electronic records, confidentiality, all those concerns. They're identical to veterinary medicine. And there's a great deal to learn. And what NAVC, which is the largest provider of CE in the world, and a good partner with veterinary medicine, they formed the Veterinary Innovation Council, and it was created to be not a new trade group like the AVMA or the TVMA, all of whom do great jobs, but to try to pull together members across the profession and look at issues that are tough sometimes for individual trade groups. So, for example, on the council, you have two deans, Dean Green and Dean Lloyd from Florida. You have a representative of the National Vet Tech Association. You have a member of the New York State Board of Veterinary Medicine, like yourself, who was formerly president of the AVMA. You've got a very diverse group. And they had a lot of choices of topics, but everybody settled very quickly that telemedicine was the one issue now where it would make sense to do something that the profession as a whole, both the regulators like yourselves, as well as practitioners, as well as pet owners, could benefit from, which meant we didn't need a task force. We didn't need a discussion group. There are plenty of those going around. But why not do a pilot? And by way of pilot, a very transparent, visible pilot that allows the profession, allows regulators, allows the public to see how does this work. You know, not everybody has the same understanding. Is telemedicine sending texts from a veterinarian to her client? Is telemedicine talking on the phone? Is it Skype where you look on a TV screen? You know, we all have a different image of it. And the good thing is we had all of the technology available to human medicine. And just as you have all the same specialties in veterinary medicine as you have in human health care, we have the same technology tools. So we don't have to, if you will, reinvent the wheel. So we decided to do a pilot. And we had to settle on a state. And for good or bad, I hope Texas is proud to be selected. But I advise NAVC, so I said to them, to be blunt, you need to pick a major state. And by major state, a state of great size, complexity with rural and urban populations that the rest of the country could look at and say, you know what, they have everything we have. And no offense to my friends in Wyoming, but if we did the pilot in Wyoming, I'm not sure that people on the East Coast or even in Texas would think that was a fair test. So we picked a major state, and we had another criteria that there be a College of Veterinary Medicine of national stature that we could work with if they wanted to. That could be funded in part to provide students and staff and faculty to research, document, do the follow-up work so you could present to the public through a reputable vet school the results and then have a good discussion. And so we selected Texas and Dean Green and her team at College Station. And we then tried to figure out what would be the, I remember where I am here, what would be the boundaries, if you will, of the pilot. Now it's very interesting. 47 states on the human medicine side now do allow the creation of a patient, doctor-patient or doctor-client relationship through telemedicine means. Every single state opposed it when they first looked at it over the past 20 years, and now 47 states have got there through a lot of trial and error. And I think, you know, our advice, my advice to this board, which we're not asking you to do anything today, but just by way of looking at this pilot, our view is that take advantage of human health learning in Texas and elsewhere to get guidance because they've looked at the same issues. But what we decided to do for the profession, and we got the viewpoint of practitioners, small practices, large practices, was two things. Let's just look at, demonstrate, and share with the public, with existing clients, how telehealth tools work. And those issues don't really land on your desk. Meaning if you have an existing patient-client relationship right now, my vet can call me on the phone. I could Skype with her, right? I could send a carrier pigeon with a note. I mean, we can communicate any way we want if we have an existing veterinary-client relationship, right? And that's not a legal challenge. And by the way, congratulations to your new counsel. You've entered a very interesting field of veterinary medicine, so get ready to study a lot at night and have lots of pet owners find your phone number. But so the existing clients, we wanted to just use that as a test. Let's just see if it's a tool to get people to do better follow-up, right? Perhaps if they were waiting 3 years to maybe not come into the practice until they have a vaccine due. Maybe they'd use a telehealth tool to have more frequent engagement with the veterinarian. Wouldn't that be better for the health care of the pet, particularly given the short life in human terms of most dogs and most cats? So that was one track, and we'll describe that. The second track is the one, Frankie, where there's the greatest interest. Veterinary medicine faces what most people believe is roughly 50% of the pet owners in the country. I can't speak to Texas uniquely, but approximately 50% of all pet owners do not seek veterinary care. They love their pet. They spend thousands of dollars a year on designer dog food, on bowls, on grooming, on boarding. Consult Dr. Google, their neighbor, their sister, their friend, their partner, whomever, for guidance on what to do if their pet doesn't seem to be doing well. But for whatever reason, they don't access veterinary care. And that's even after a 7-year effort by the AVMA and partners like the TVMA to send messages out to people through the Partner for Healthy Pets campaign to come in to see a vet. It will do your dog or cat good, they'll live longer and healthier, hasn't really had an impact. So the question became, could the telehealth tool help open the door, if you will, to a veterinary client relationship with some pet owners? So the pilot was designed to do that as well. We selected a group of practices, which include independent Texas practices, that will conduct the pilots. The partner chosen was Texas A&M. We have been in contact with the Texas board. We had a chance to meet at AVMA in San Antonio in August, and a number of you I met for the first time. I'd worked with Nicole before. We appreciated the chance with the dean to have just a dialogue about what we're doing, and we met again at AAVSB in Arizona a month ago, and we were invited graciously to be here. So we've been in touch. There's another state that we're working with as well. And what the practices chose was the simplest platform. Now, some of you are veterinarians, not all. There's a lot of technology out there now, and you probably are, if you're a veterinarian practicing, you're getting a solicitation daily, if not weekly, for some tool to use. But we chose the easiest, which is Skype. They're just the simplest tool to be able to look at a laptop or your iPhone or your, I wouldn't say your Samsung 7. I'm sorry to pick on Samsung 7. I fly every week, and every week they now make people feel like criminals if they walk on the plane with this device. But basically, use those tools and use Skype to have a live interaction with the pet owner, and hopefully the pet on the other end, where if they're in their apartment, their home, wherever they may be. So that was made fairly simple. And we are conducting those 2 sets of tests. And we've not begun yet officially in Texas, but just to tell you what the tests will be. We'll conduct those tests, and then A&M, both faculty, staff, and students are involved from start to finish in evaluating, tabulating, doing follow-up, ultimately producing peer-reviewed research, but also sharing publications, I think, with the veterinary community and the pet owner community, just to tell people this is how it works. And our idea, if you're interested, and we hope you will be, is to have the state boards, and AAVSB has cooperated at the national level, be part of this, not endorsing telemedicine, but basically be part of it to view the test, view the pilot, see how it works, watch the interviews of pet owners, watch the interviews of veterinarians, and just see what people learn or how they view the experience. Is it quality medicine? Can you get, not surgery obviously, but can you have minor conditions and minor issues dealt with efficiently where somebody wouldn't come into a clinic? And I use the example, and Houston's a perfect model, but you have a lot of shut-in seniors that live in apartments in urban America, and Texas has 3 of the biggest cities in the country, where they don't have a car. Often they have a cat, which by definition is tough to get to a vet clinic. And I think it's a myth for the veterinary profession to think that a 75-year-old cat owner in an apartment is going to get that cat into a crate, go downstairs from her apartment building, get on a bus, go 4 stops, and walk 5 blocks to a clinic. It's simply not happening. So can you use telemedicine as a way to get some information to her and some health care delivered to her via the telemedicine tool? So we're trying to figure out how to do that. And we're very conscious of the regulatory issues. So we're not doing this in secret and then coming and sharing results, but we're in discussions with regulators at the national and state levels about what changes are going to be needed. And I know the one that comes to mind, we're not going to challenge that in this pilot, just so you know. We're not going to have any doctors violate the VCPR and then hope they don't get caught or hope that nobody writes a letter. We're not doing that. But we will raise the question with you, which is, how do you work not in that existing client? That's not a challenge. There it's just getting the word out to veterinarians and seeing if telemedicine is a good tool. It's more of a practical issue. But with the new pet owner, short of getting them into the clinic to do the examination that certainly Texas law requires to create the VCPR, can you use telemedicine as part of that process? And we're going to very much try to do that. We're going to target the Houston and Austin markets. We're probably talking about, for new pet owners, maybe a total of 50 total. We're hoping to work with 2 SPCAs. Most SPCAs in adoption track whether or not they're adopting pet owners after adoption get veterinary care. As you know, they're always encouraged to. They're usually given a list, and there is follow-up. So you can find out after about 6 months or 9 months of a new, let's say a new dog parent, if you will, if they've accessed veterinary care. So what we're hoping to do is to be able to access new pet owners that have chosen not to get veterinary care to create a telehealth communication, not in violation or even getting close to, the VCPR issue, but get them engaged in a conversation about the health care of their pet that could lead to engagement by them in the veterinary process, right? And give them advice short of becoming the doctor on the telephone or on the Skype. And that's what we're exploring here. And I think you'll find it interesting, and we will invite the Texas board to be as visible and have a look at the process as carefully as we can. But what we would do is have hopefully a discussion with the new pet owner, with a licensed Texas veterinarian, real time, where they're basically congratulated on the decision to adopt. Great, you've got a dog. Here's some basic rules to think about. Healthcare is important. It's important to see a vet. If you have issues, don't hesitate to call, but begin the dialogue. And I think, I've used the phrase, and I shared it with your chairman at the AAVSB meeting. I think we want to look at the VCPR not as a wall, but as a door. You want it to be a door into the healthcare system, not a wall to keep the person on the other side. So I think you want to be able to have that conversation comfortably, short of, doing what you can only do under a VCPR, but get the process started. And ideally, you draw that client into the practice and into the clinic. So, just to be, give you one good example, if you have a new pet owner and you're having a good discussion about healthcare and nutrition and so forth, which a veterinarian can do, and you can Google and get that advice, all day long if you want, but you could do that in a conversation, which we think would be more important and more valuable. It wouldn't be surprising, and one of the partners has found in another state that most of the time, those discussions, which are useful, trigger the pet owner saying, well, as a matter of fact, my 2-year-old lab is just scratching his ear like crazy the last 3 days. And I think if the veterinarian goes mute and says, I can't tell you anything about that condition, I can't say a word about why a dog would scratch their ear, it would be awkward, but more importantly, it would defeat the purpose of trying to get that pet owner engaged with the veterinarian. So you'll have some latitude there, ideally, to allow them to talk about, we'd sure like to see your dog, depending where you live. The condition could be fleas, it could be in classic ear infection like kids get so often. There are common ways of treating it. There's medication. If you came in, we could provide that. There's a manner in which you have the